Hi, I'm Cassie, the Associate Director of the University Writing Center at the University of Louisville. I created this video for faculty and researchers who want to understand the primary changes from APA 6th edition to APA 7th edition. If you're interested in pedagogical strategies for teaching APA in your classes, check out the companion video, which I linked at the end. If you would like to skip ahead or move backward to the topics covered in the video, use the table of contents in the description below. Turn on closed captioning by clicking the CC icon. In the description, I also included links to all the additional resources I mentioned in this video. After watching this video, you should be able to, first, identify the primary changes introduced by APA 7th edition, and second, refer to key sections of the APA Publication Manual 7th edition and other APA resources. To be clear, this video is not a primer for APA for beginners. It is designed for faculty and researchers who are already familiar with APA, likely APA 6th edition. If you are new to APA, our APA 7th edition playlist will be more useful for you. There are 5 areas affected by the changes that I'll discuss today. First, title pages, which includes the running head, then level headings, then in-text citation, then reference entries, and finally, pronouns. To be clear, I'm not covering every single change, just what I understand as the primary ones. So if you are concerned you're missing something, please refer to the APA Manual 7th edition and the PDF linked in the description. The PDF was created by APA and breaks down each chapter of the 7th edition manual and indicates which information is new. Let's begin with the title page. As a reminder, APA 6th edition's title page included a running head on the first page that included the label running head before the title in all caps, with author information in the middle of the page. Because APA recognizes there are different needs and expectations for students writing for a course and professionals submitting for publication, 7th edition introduced 2 versions of the title pages and required elements for papers. Both are explained starting on page 29 of the manual. APA is careful to note that students should also follow any instructions given to them by their instructor. For students, there is no running head with the title, but page number 1 is still included in the top right. The page numbers continue on all pages. The title of the paper still appears in the upper half of the page, but a change is that the title of the paper is bold and centered, whereas before it was not bold. There is 1 extra blank line space between the title and the author's name, and 1 space between the rest of the elements, which are department and institution, course number and name, and the due date. This is what the finished elements should look like. The professional title page has more of the familiar elements from APA 6th edition. You probably noticed that it has a running head. However, the preface of running head no longer exists. Instead, it is just the paper's title, shortened if necessary, flush left, and the page number 1 flush right. This exact header will appear on every page of your document, so there is no need to create a different first page header. The elements in the main part of the page begin with the paper's title. The paper title is now bold and centered, whereas in 6th edition it was not bold. There is an extra blank line space followed by the author or author's name and the departments and institutions for authors. This is what it looks like for a single authored paper. Below these elements, authors can include an author note, which I won't go over today. It is explained on page 35 with an example on page 31 of the manual. Now I'll discuss the changes to level headings. As a reminder, writers use level headings to format the labels for subsections in a document. They are really useful for dividing up a paper into sections and subsections. These were the formatting guidelines for APA 6th edition. In 7th edition, levels 3 through 5 have changed, so I highlighted them. This chart is on page 47 of the manual. There are also several examples in the manual. I also want to point out 4 important places that essentially use a Level 1 heading format of bold, centered, and title case, which is a change from 6th edition. I already showed you on both title pages where the title is formatted like a Level 1 heading. In addition, use this formatting for the label for abstract on the abstract page, the title of the paper on the first body page, and the label of references for the references page. Moving on to in-text citation. As a reminder, in APA 6th edition, in in-text citation, if there were 3, 4, or 5 authors of a source, the guideline specified that you would include all names the first time and use et al. To replace authors for any subsequent uses of the source. Remember this fun chart? Page 266 in the 7th edition manual specifies that when using 7th edition, there is never a change from the first citation to subsequent, regardless of the number of authors. For sources with 1 or 2 authors, or groups as author, always include the author's names. And for 3 or more authors, use the first author's name plus et al. In the Writing Center's handout for APA 7th edition, we have a detailed table with examples of in-text citation depending on both how many authors there are and if the writer is including the source in the sentence, called narrative citation, or in parentheses at the end of the sentence, called parenthetical citation. The format and expectations for individual reference entries has changed for all types of sources. The manual starts on page 281 explaining the references list. Starting on page 313, there are many reference examples. Here are the primary changes. For web sources, do not include the words retrieved from before a URL unless the retrieval date is necessary. URLs may be formatted as a hyperlink or plain text. Italicize website names. DOIs, or digital object identifiers, should be included for every source, including print sources, if the source has a DOI. DOIs are now formatted as URLs. For books, no longer include the publisher location. And finally, for all sources, include all authors' names up to 20. Previously, it was 7. I want to briefly show you how a few of these changes look in 2 examples. In the first example, the retrieved from date is still included with the URL because the information located at the URL, U.S. population information, may change, though the URL will stay the same. The second example is a print book, but no publisher location is included, and the DOI is included, formatted as a URL. URLs for websites and DOIs may be formatted in plain text as they are here, or as hyperlinks, which word processors automatically do. And the final change is related to pronoun usage and bias-free language. In the chapter on bias-free language, starting on page 131, APA indicates that they and their may be used as singular, gender-neutral pronouns. When referring to individuals whose identified pronouns are not known, or when the gender of a generic or hypothetical person is irrelevant within the context, use the singular they to avoid making assumptions about an individual's gender. As a reminder, today we discussed 5 areas of changes in APA 7th edition: the title pages and running head, level headings, use of et al. In in-text citation, references, and pronouns. Your first resource should be the APA Manual 7th edition. During the pandemic, APA is providing free resources at apastyle.apa.org, including the full text of the manual. You may also find the University Writing Center resources useful for you and your students. All of these resources are linked in the description. We have 2 handouts, one for in-text and references, and one for formatting. We also have 3 other videos on APA 7th edition citation. And finally, University of Louisville students, faculty, and staff can contact the Writing Center and schedule appointments. As a faculty member, have you wondered how to approach teaching APA to upper-level undergraduates and graduate students? The next video covers pedagogical strategies for teaching APA alongside your course's goals.